Okay, let's dive right in. If you've ever worked with SAP SuccessFactors, you know this feeling all too well. You spend ages building the perfect custom object, you load it up with data, you go to build your report, and it's just blank. It is one of the most frustrating things, and in this explainer, we're going to solve it once and for all.
This is the exact scene of the crime we're investigating today. You've done everything by the book, it seems, but your data is playing a serious game of hide and seek. It feels like a total mystery, like the system is just out to get you. But trust me, there's always a logical explanation. We just need to follow the clues.
And this isn't just some abstract theory either. We're actually following the real-world, step-by-step troubleshooting journey of someone who is stuck in this exact same spot. We're going to follow their notes, see how they crack the case. This is practical, in-the-trenches problem solving. First things first. Before we start pointing fingers at the reporting engine or some complex system setting, we have to follow the #1 rule of any data investigation. You have to make sure the data is actually there and that it's in a usable state. It sounds almost too simple, but you would be shocked how often the problem is right here at square one.
So what does that actually mean? Well, it boils down to 4 key checks. First, did the data actually save? You know, sometimes a validation rule might fail without a big warning. Second, what about the effective dates? If a record start date is set for next week, no report running today is ever going to see it. Third, does every single record have a unique external code? This is the system's social security number for each piece of data. It's absolutely non-negotiable for reporting. And finally, if it's tied to an employee, is that association, that link, pointing to the right user? A broken link here means a dead end for your report.
All right, so let's say your data is perfect. Everything's saved, the dates are right, it all checks out. The next major suspect on our list is the system configuration itself. See, just because you create a new object doesn't mean SAP automatically knows you want to include it in your reports. You have to explicitly tell it, hey, pay attention to this.
And this is the first crucial step. You've got to go into the admin center and add your shiny new object to something called the reporting schema. You can think of the schema as a kind of VIP list. If your object's name isn't on that list, the reporting bouncer is just going to ignore it, no matter how much important data it's holding. Now, this brings us to a really key part of how modern reporting works. Most of the tools you're using, whether they're inside SAP or outside, they use something called the OData API to grab data. It's basically the language they speak. So you have to go into your object's definition and flip the switch to enable this API access. If you don't, it's like you've locked the one door the reporting tools need to get through.
So to wrap up this section, you add your object to the reporting schema, you enable OData API access for both the object and its fields, and then, and this is a great tip, you sometimes need to rebuild or publish those schema changes. That basically forces the system to stop and take a fresh look at your new setup.
Okay, your data is solid, the system is configured, and yet the report is still blank? This brings us to our third and honestly our most sneaky suspect, permissions. This is where so many mysteries lie because everything can be set up perfectly, but if the user running the report doesn't have permission to see the data, it's going to stay invisible, period. And this is all about role-based permissions, or RBP. The source material calls it the silent blocker, which is the perfect name for it. It won't give you a big, flashy error message. It won't tell you what's wrong. The report will just come back empty because the system is quietly and correctly doing its job of hiding data from someone who isn't allowed to see it.
And this right here? This is the classic symptom, the dead giveaway. As an admin, you run the report and you see everything. It looks absolutely perfect. But then a regular user runs that exact same report and they get nothing, zilch. The data is there, but it's completely shielded by their permission role. If you ever see this happen, your first thought should be RBP.
Oh, and here is a pro tip that catches so many people. It's not just about the human user running the report. If you're using an external tool like Power BI or something similar, that tool connects to SAP using its own special integration user account. You have to make sure that account's role also has the permission to read your custom object. So we've checked the data, we've configured the system, and we've sorted out permissions. The final piece of this puzzle is how we build the report itself. Instead of trying to create a big complex report all at once, the key is to be methodical. You build it piece by piece, testing as you go to isolate exactly where a problem might be hiding. And this two-step process is your secret weapon. First, forget the reporting tool for a second. Use an API tool to talk directly to the system. You just ask it, hey, can you show me the data in this object? If you get data back, you know everything we've talked about so far is working correctly. Then, and only then, do you go build the simplest report imaginable, using just your one custom object. No joins, no filters, no complexity. Just prove the connection works.
Once that super simple report shows you data, you've won half the battle. Now you can start adding the fancy stuff, like joining it to your employee data. The number one mistake people make here is a mismatch in the join keys. You know, trying to connect a user ID in one place to an employee ID in another. They have to match up perfectly.
And for our last trick, the oldest one in the Troubleshooter's book. If you're still stuck with a blank report, strip it naked. Remove every single filter, date ranges, status filters, you name it. Run it completely wide open. If data suddenly appears, you know one of your filters was the culprit. Then you just add them back one by one until the data disappears again and you've found your problem.
So after all of that detective work, from the data itself to the system config, to permissions, to the report build, the solution almost always boils down to one of three main culprits.
And here they are, the three usual suspects. Number one, the object was never added to that VIP list, the reporting schema. Number two, the OData API door was never unlocked, so the reporting tools were stuck outside. And number three, the silent blocker. The user just plain didn't have the permissions to see the data. Any one of these is enough to give you a whole lot of nothing in your report.
Okay, let's pull this all together. Let's create a final, actionable checklist you can grab the next time you're facing this exact problem. This is your go-to guide for solving the case of the missing data.
And here it is, your complete roadmap. Start with the data itself. Do records exist? Do they have unique codes and good dates? Then move to the system. Is it on the schema list and is the API enabled? After that, investigate permissions, the silent blocker. And finally, clean up your reporting method. Test directly with the API, build simple before you build complex, and check your filters. Follow these steps in order and you will find your missing data.
So, after going through this whole investigation, what's your new number one suspect? Is it the permissions, that API setting, maybe the reporting schema? Thinking about which one of these you're going to check first is the best way to make this knowledge stick. That way, the next time your data goes missing, you'll be the one who knows exactly how to solve the case.